Todd's early years were really described as difficult. He's often described as disturbed as a young child, angry, explosive, very impulsive, and very poor social skills. That might not be very different from other children. What's different from him, though, is the extremes of the anger and the extremes of the explosion, what he does when he's angry, destroying things. And his mother also described him as quite sensitive, a sensitive child. In other words, if his feelings were hurt, they were really hurt. And now, because he had the anger and the explosion, put them both together, sensitive, and now I have to do something bad. This is a pattern he showed for most of his life.
He learned at an early age how to not feel badly about harming things. So we probably start with animals, which is not uncommon, actually. Shooting a dog with a BB gun. And I think that was a telltale sign as he was growing up that, there's something going on here. And that comes from his lack of attachment. He didn't have a father that was there. Father had left. And I think also the fact that he was a bit of a bully at school. He picked on kids. He was often getting into trouble. And that was another warning sign that there's something wrong here. I think there was probably an overreaction. They ended up placing him into a facility, a psych facility, for a few months. And that probably was a real turning point for him to be locked up. That really stamped on him there was something seriously wrong with him. And he learned to accept that label. And of course, they tell him what to do and how to do it and when to do it. He has no control for all this time he's locked up. When he's released, now he's getting to a point where he's fantasizing about one being in control, and which is very common amongst serial offenders. Psychopathy is all about control. As we define psychopathy, it is the need for control.
He told his mom at one point, whenever he was an adolescent, around 12 years old, that he wanted to go live with his biological father because his biological father had left him and his mother right after he was born. And he told his mom if he couldn't go out to Arizona, across the country, and live with his biological father, that he would either kill her or kill himself. So she ended up letting him move out with his father. When he moved out to his father's, he had even more freedom to do whatever he wanted. So while his mom tried to control his behavior, but eventually gave in, his father would be gone for 2-3 days at a time, leaving a 15-year-old home alone to do whatever he wanted. And this is someone who already had these violent tendencies, aggressive behavior. He had narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. His family knew about this well before he ever committed one crime.
In the town of Arizona, they probably hadn't seen other adolescents that acted and behaved in the ways that Todd did. And in those respects, he's a bit isolated and disconnected. So it escalates as he becomes a teen to more angry, more rebellious, and also now violent. So now we've seen this violence toward animals move to violence toward people.
Todd was about 15 years old when he was living with his father. He hadn't committed any real crimes at that point, but that was when he did commit his first really extremely violent crime. He went over to his neighbor's house. She was 14 years old at that time. She was babysitting her siblings, and he knocked on the door. She answered, basically said, "I can't come out." But he didn't stop. He went around to the back. He kept knocking and saying, "Please come out, please come out." So just to basically get rid of him, she comes outside. He holds a gun to her and forces her to come over to his house. And it was there that he bound her, duct taped her, and raped her. The girl's brother, who was home at the time, called the police. The police showed up, and Todd even talks about it himself. He was considering killing her, but he doesn't. That sort of crime is almost beyond comprehensible for anyone, not to mention someone at 15 years old. The fact that he was able to execute this extremely violent crime all in succession like that is extremely scary, and I think set off a lot of alarm bells in the community, for his family, and also should have for investigators. Someone that young to be able to torture a young girl that much is just terrifying, yeah.
He admitted what he did, and he said he did it to get back at his father because his father had been gone for 3 days with one of his many girlfriends. And he admitted that what he did was wrong. He shouldn't have done it, but he said the reason why he did it was because he was mad at his dad. When Todd Kohlhepp went to prison, he was 15 years old, and they went back and forth in the court proceedings if he should be tried as an adult or as a child, since he was 15 years old. After much examination with psychiatrists, they determined that nothing that they could do in the short span of time from 15 until 18 years old, that they would be able to do anything to rehabilitate him. So he was sent off to prison as an adult.
The nature of his crime was so heinous that 15 years was a suitable amount of time for him to be serving in prison. There was discussions of him even going away for longer than that. I think everybody agreed that there was a very extreme sadistic nature to this person, and that it was something that began at such a young age and was a consistent pattern. It was something that was picked up on from the time he was, 7, 8 years old.
It seems by all counts, everyone involved in that, his legal team, the judge, everyone could easily see that he was really disturbed. They could also easily see that he was not showing any remorse. That is a huge sign of what could happen if this person gets back out into society. With Todd's parole hearing, there seemed to be some individuals involved in the psychological evaluation that really saw some issues with him. They could easily see that this is a really disturbed person. In fact, the psychological evaluation said that he is very disturbed, and the time that he spent here is not enough to rehabilitate or treat him. On the other hand, once he served his time, he's not displaying behavior that would keep him in jail. He's not answering questions that would signal that something is deeply wrong with him. So of course, no one has any reason at this point to keep him in jail. If he served his time, they feel, hey, he's now ready to enter the community.
We hope when someone is released from prison that they made changes. And when a man says he's changed, well, we know one thing for sure. He's lying. Because when they tell you they've changed, they're trying to convince you of something that hasn't happened yet. Because change requires suffering and pain and time and effort and sacrifice. And most men, rather than change, they just want to cut to the chase and get back to normal again. And so they say they've changed. Certainly he could blend it back into society and say, I did some prison time, but I'm a changed man. Oh, that's wonderful. Because the public wants to believe that people have changed. Yeah, that didn't happen.
He was released, he was 30 years old. He had been in prison for the same amount of time that he was alive. So for anyone to think that that won't completely shape and affect the way that somebody acts once they're out of prison, to me makes absolutely no sense. And for somebody who was already so violent in nature and then served all this time in prison to be released into society without any checks or balances after that is really alarming and scary.
He had come out of prison and he ended up earning his GED and his associate's degree. It seemed like he was motivated to go and become a productive member of society. He got out in 2001 and then shortly after moved back here to Spartanburg, South Carolina. He decided he wanted to get his bachelor's degree, so he finished up some classes at a local technical college and then transferred to the University of South Carolina Upstate, which is also in Spartanburg. And he graduated at the top of his class. It seemed from the outside he really was trying to do everything the right way, trying to kind of make up for those past mistakes and move on, I guess, to start a new life, start fresh.
Truthfully, ever since he was released from prison, he absolutely lived a double life. He was already hiding his violent crime from the beginning.